The sky was on fire. Danny Cole pressed his back against the dirt wall of the foxhole and tried to catch his breath. Plasma bolts screamed overhead, turning the air hot and electric. The smell of burning metal and scorched earth filled his lungs with every breath he took. He was going to die on this rock. He knew it now. There was no point in pretending otherwise. 3 years. 3 long years of fighting the Valari across dozens of worlds, watching humanity get pushed back step by step, colony by colony. Danny had seen friends die. He had seen entire cities burn. He had seen things that would haunt him for whatever short time he had left to live. "Sarge, we got maybe 6 power cells left between all of us," Lisa Dunn said from beside him. She was calm, like always. Even now, with death closing in from all sides, her voice was steady. Danny had served with her for 2 years, and he had never once seen her panic. It was one of the things he respected most about her. On his other side, Kevin Marsh was checking his rifle for the 10th time in as many minutes. The young private was scared. Danny could see it in his eyes, and the way his hands shook just a little. But he was still here. He had not run. That counted for something. "How's Amy doing?" Danny asked, nodding toward the back of the foxhole where Amy Russo lay on a makeshift stretcher. A plasma bolt had caught her in the leg during the first wave of attacks. She was tough, but she had lost a lot of blood. "She's stable," Lisa replied. "For now. But she needs real medical attention, not field patches." Danny nodded. Real medical attention meant evacuation. Evacuation meant ships. And the ships were long gone, carrying the last of the civilians away from this dying world. His squad had been left behind to hold the communications relay, to keep it running long enough for the evacuation to complete. That had been 6 hours ago. The relay was still standing, somehow. But the evac ships were probably halfway to the jump point by now. No one was coming back for them. The Valari had been relentless. Wave after wave of their warriors had crashed against the human defenses. Danny's battalion had started the day with over 200 soldiers. Now it was just the 4 of them, dug into a hole in the ground, waiting for the end. He had seen Valari up close during the fighting. They were terrifying. 8 feet tall, covered in scales that changed color like living metal. 4 arms, each one ending in clawed hands that could tear through body armor like paper. Their eyes were wrong somehow, too big and too bright, like they could see things humans could not. But it was not their appearance that made them so deadly. It was their technology. Their weapons fired plasma that burned through anything. Their ships could jump across light years in seconds. Their armor could shrug off bullets like raindrops. Humanity had been fighting with everything it had, and it still was not enough. "Movement," Kevin said suddenly, his voice tight. "East side. Lots of them." Danny risked a look over the edge of the foxhole. His stomach dropped. A full squad of Valari warriors was advancing through the smoke, their scales flickering with colors that probably meant something in their language. 10 of them. Maybe 12. More than enough to finish off 4 tired humans with almost no ammunition left. "All right," Danny said, pulling back down. "This is it. Make every shot count. We hold this position as long as we can." Lisa nodded, already settling her rifle against the dirt. Kevin swallowed hard, but did the same. Even Amy, barely conscious, reached for her sidearm with a trembling hand. Danny felt something like pride swell in his chest. This was what humanity was. Not the politicians back on Earth arguing about treaties and surrenders. Not the generals who had never seen a Valari up close. It was people like Lisa and Kevin and Amy, ordinary people who refused to quit, even when quitting made sense. The first Valari reached the outer perimeter. Danny sighted down his rifle and squeezed the trigger. The plasma bolt caught the alien in the chest, and it went down. One less. But there were so many more. The next few minutes were chaos. Plasma fire filled the air. Danny fired until his rifle clicked empty, then grabbed another from the pile of weapons they had salvaged from fallen comrades. Lisa was a machine beside him, taking down one Valari after another with impossible precision. Kevin was screaming something. Fear and rage mixed together in a sound that was almost animal, and then the ground began to shake. Danny thought it was artillery at first. The Valari had heavy weapons in orbit, and he had been expecting them to just blast the relay from space once they got tired of losing soldiers. But this was different. The vibration was coming from below, not above. It was rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. The Valari stopped shooting. Danny watched in confusion as the alien warriors froze in place, their scales flickering through colors he had never seen before. They were scared, he realized. Whatever was happening, they had not expected it either. "What the hell is going on?" Kevin asked, his voice barely a whisper. Danny did not have an answer. The shaking was getting stronger. Cracks were spreading across the ground, lines of white light breaking through the dirt and rock. The air itself seemed to hum with energy. Then the light exploded. It came from directly beneath them. A column of pure white brilliance that shot up into the sky and swallowed Danny whole. He felt his feet leave the ground. He felt heat that should have burned him, but somehow did not. He heard voices, thousands of them, speaking in languages he had never learned but somehow understood. The light was alive. It was ancient. It had been sleeping beneath this world for millions of years, waiting for something, waiting for someone, and now it had found what it was looking for. Danny tried to scream, but no sound came out. The light was inside him now, rewriting him at a level deeper than cells, deeper than atoms. It was showing him things, visions of a galaxy that had existed before humanity had crawled out of the oceans of Earth, a great civilization that had spanned 1,000,000 stars, a terrible enemy that had destroyed it all, a final desperate plan, seeds scattered across the cosmos, waiting to bloom. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light was gone. Danny found himself standing in the center of a crater where the foxhole had been. His uniform was gone, replaced by armor that seemed to be made of liquid silver. In his hand was a weapon that glowed with inner light. He could feel power humming through his body, more power than any human had ever possessed. His squad was staring at him. The Valari were staring at him. The whole world had gone silent. "Danny?" Lisa said, her voice small and uncertain. "What just happened to you?" He looked down at his hands, at the armor that moved with him like a second skin. He could feel the Valari around him, not just see them. He could sense their emotions, their fear and awe and confusion. And far away, getting closer every second, he could feel something else. A presence vast and ancient, burning with desperate hope. "I don't know," Danny admitted, "but I think everything just changed." Danny stood in the crater and tried to make sense of what had happened to him. The armor on his body felt like it was part of him now, not something he was wearing, but something he had become. When he thought about moving, the metal shifted before his muscles did. When he focused on the weapon in his hand, it hummed louder, responding to his intentions like a loyal dog responding to its master. The voices were still there, whispering at the edge of his mind. They were not speaking to him exactly. It was more like he was remembering things he had never learned. Knowledge was flooding into his brain, filling spaces he had not known were empty. He knew things now. Terrible things. Wonderful things. Things that made the war with the Valari seem small and unimportant. "Danny, talk to me," Lisa said. She had climbed out of the ruined foxhole and was approaching him slowly, her rifle held loosely at her side. She was not pointing it at him, but she was not putting it away either. Smart woman. "I'm still me," Danny said, and was surprised to find that it was true. He had half expected the transformation to erase him, to replace Danny Cole with something alien and cold. But he was still himself, still the same scared soldier who had been ready to die in a hole in the ground. He just had more now. Much more. Your eyes are glowing, Kevin said from behind Lisa. The young private looked like he was about to faint. Like, actually glowing. Silver light. It's really creepy, Sarge. Danny reached up to touch his face. His skin felt the same, but he could see what Kevin meant. There was light coming from somewhere, casting faint silver shadows on his gaunted fingers. The Valari. Amy's voice came weakly from the crater's edge. Lisa must have pulled her to safety during the light show. What are they doing? Danny turned to look at the alien warriors. They had not moved since the light had faded. They stood frozen in place, their weapons hanging at their sides, their scales cycling through colors so fast they almost seemed to be flashing. He reached out with his new senses, trying to feel what they were feeling. Fear. Overwhelming fear. But not of him, he realized. They were afraid of what his transformation meant, of something it connected to. They're scared, Danny said, but not of attacking us. They're scared of something else. As if to prove his point, the Valari suddenly began to retreat. Not running, but moving quickly, pulling back toward their dropships without firing another shot. Danny watched them go and felt confusion from Lisa and Kevin washing over him. Their emotions were loud now, easy to read. Did we win? Kevin asked, disbelief thick in his voice. Did that light thing scare them off? No, Danny said slowly. They're making room. Something is coming. He could feel it now, that vast presence getting closer. It was descending from orbit, cutting through the atmosphere like a falling star. A ship larger than any Valari vessel he had seen before. Not a warship. Something else. Something important. The ship broke through the clouds a few minutes later. It was beautiful in a way that made Danny's heart ache. Crystal and light and curves that seemed impossible, like someone had frozen a sunrise and carved it into the shape of a vessel. It hung in the air above the ruined battlefield, silent and magnificent. That's a royal ship, Lisa said. She had studied Valari culture more than most soldiers, looking for any advantage in the endless war. Only their highest leaders use ships like that. A platform descended from the ship's belly. Standing on it was a single figure, taller and more elegant than any Valari Danny had seen before. Her scales were not the dull combat colors of the warriors. They were brilliant, shifting through shades of silver and blue and gold that seemed to pulse with emotion. She had more eyes than the warriors, too, 4 of them arranged in a diamond pattern on her face. Each one fixed on Danny with burning intensity. The Valari Queen had come in person. Weapons down, Danny said quietly. He did not know how he knew, but he was certain that violence would not help them here. The voices in his head were calmer now, almost approving of his choice. Are you serious? Kevin demanded. That's their queen, Danny, the one who ordered the invasion. She's responsible for millions of deaths. I know. Danny did not take his eyes off the approaching figure. But something is different now. Something has changed. I need to know what. The queen stopped 20 feet away. Her guards had remained on the platform, a gesture of trust or perhaps just confidence. She studied Danny for a long moment, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence rather than together. You are the one, she said at last. Her voice was strange, musical almost, but the words were clear Earth standard. She had learned human language. The bearer. We have searched so long. I don't know what that means, Danny replied honestly. I was a soldier. A sergeant. An hour ago, I was getting ready to die defending a communications relay. Now, I'm standing here in alien armor talking to the leader of the civilization that has been trying to exterminate my species. The queen's scales flickered to a shade of gray that Danny somehow knew meant shame. We were wrong, she said. Our methods were born of desperation, not malice. But that does not excuse the suffering we have caused. No, Danny agreed. It doesn't. Will you listen anyway? Will you hear the truth of why we came to your space? Why we have sacrificed so much to find what now rests inside you? Danny thought about refusing. He thought about the colonies burned, the friends lost, the years of blood and pain and fear. He had every right to kill this queen where she stood, to use whatever power now lived inside him to finish the war once and for all. But the voices whispered to him. They showed him glimpses of something vast and dark, something that made the Volari look like children playing with toys. They showed him what would happen if he let his anger guide him now. I'll listen, Danny said, but I'm not promising anything after that. The queen bowed her head slightly, a gesture of respect that made her guards shift nervously behind her. That is more than we deserve. Thank you, Bear. My name is Danny Cole. You can start by using it. Something like a smile crossed the queen's alien face. Very well, Danny Cole. My name is Vexara, and I have a story to tell you. A story about the end of everything, and why your species may be the only hope any of us have left. Lisa moved to stand beside Danny, her rifle finally lowered. Kevin was still pale, but he had stopped looking like he was about to bolt. Even Amy, propped up against a piece of debris, was watching with sharp eyes. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Just like they had faced everything else. All right, Vexara, Danny said. Start talking. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of Danny's life. He had gone from a sergeant fighting a losing war to something that alien species across the galaxy were calling the Bearer, the one who held the key to survival. He still did not feel like a chosen one. He still felt like Danny Cole from Ohio, the kid who had joined the military because he could not afford college and wanted to see the stars. But the power inside him was real. Every day he learned more about what he could do. The armor responded to his thoughts, shifting its shape to match whatever situation he faced. The weapon could fire beams of pure energy that cut through anything. And his mind had expanded in ways he was still struggling to understand. He could sense emotions. He could communicate with the artifacts scattered across the galaxy, faint whispers that grew stronger as he practiced. The hardest part was not learning to use his new abilities. The hardest part was convincing humanity to trust the Volari. You want us to what? Admiral Patricia Brooks stared at Danny through the quantum-linked hologram, her weathered face tight with disbelief. She was the highest-ranking officer in the United Earth Defense Force, a woman who had spent the last 3 years fighting the Volari with everything she had. Now Danny was asking her to stand down and make peace. I know how it sounds, Danny said. He was standing in a conference room aboard Vexara's royal ship, surrounded by alien technology that hummed with power. Lisa stood beside him, a steady presence at his shoulder. I was ready to die fighting them 2 weeks ago. But things have changed. Things have changed because you got zapped by some alien light show, the Admiral replied sharply. Forgive me if I don't find that reassuring. For all we know, they've brainwashed you. Turned you into some kind of puppet. I'm not brainwashed. I'm still the same person who served under your command for 3 years. I still remember every friend I lost to Volari weapons. I still feel the anger. Danny let some of that anger show in his voice, let it burn through his words. But I've also seen what's coming. The Hollow. I felt them at the edge of my new senses, Admiral. They make the Volari look like children. If we don't work together, we all die. Every human, every Volari, every living thing in this galaxy. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Danny could see other officers watching the exchange with mixed expressions. Fear, doubt, curiosity, hope. Show me, she said finally. You say you've seen them. Show me what you've seen. Danny had been practicing this. He reached out with his mind, touching the artifact's power, and projected the visions it had shared with him. The holographic display in front of Admiral Brooks flickered and changed. Instead of showing his face, it showed darkness. But not ordinary darkness. This was darkness that moved, that hungered, that erased everything it touched from existence. The officers behind the Admiral went pale. One of them actually stepped back, as if the images could reach through the hologram and grab her. Admiral Brooks herself did not move, but Danny could see her jaw tighten as she watched star systems disappear into nothing. "That's what killed the precursors," Danny said quietly. "That's what destroyed a civilization that made our technology look like stone axes. And it's about 18 months away from reaching us." "Why 18 months?" The Admiral's voice was steadier than Danny had expected. She was tough. "Why not just keep going and hit us sooner? The Hollow don't move like normal things. They expand, consume, then expand again. They're digesting what they've already taken before pushing forward, but they're speeding up. The precursor network, the artifacts like the one I'm bonded to, they're waking up. The Hollow can sense it. They know something is changing." Admiral Brooks studied him for a long moment. "And you really believe this alliance with the Valari is our only chance?" "Not just the Valari." Danny pulled up another display, showing ships approaching from all directions. "The artifact has been sending signals since I activated it. Other species are responding. Some of them were part of the old Precursor Alliance. Others are new, drawn by the promise of hope. We're building something bigger than just humans and Valari working together." "How many species?" 47 have made contact so far. More are coming every day." The numbers seemed to stagger the Admiral. Danny understood why. 2 weeks ago, humanity had thought it was alone in the universe except for the Valari. Now, they were learning that the galaxy was crowded with life, all of it facing the same extinction. "I need to bring this to the Council," Admiral Brooks said slowly. "They're not going to like it. The politicians have been promising the public that we can win this war. Telling them we need to make peace with the enemy that burned their colonies is going to be a hard sell." "Tell them the truth," Danny said. "Tell them that the war is over because something worse is coming. Tell them that we have a chance to lead an alliance of species in the fight of our lives. Humanity doesn't have to surrender. It has to step up." The Admiral almost smiled. "You always did have a way with words, Sergeant. Or I suppose I should call you Bearer now." "Danny is fine, ma'am. I'm still just Danny." "No, you're not. But I appreciate you trying to be." She straightened, and Danny saw the decision settle into her posture. "I'll talk to the Council. No promises, but I'll make them listen. In the meantime, what do you need from us?" Danny had been thinking about this. Access to our scientists. The artifact can share knowledge, but I need people who understand human technology to help translate it into something we can actually build. Engineers who can adapt what the precursors left behind. Done. What else? Soldiers. Not for fighting the Valari anymore, but for the missions we'll need to run to activate the network. I need people I can trust to watch my back on alien worlds. I'll send you the best we have." The Admiral paused. "And Danny, for what it's worth, I believe you. I've known you for 3 years. You're not the kind of man who lies, especially not about something like this." "Thank you, Admiral. That means more than you know." The hologram flickered off, and Danny let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. 1 step forward. 1,000 more to go. "That went better than I expected," Lisa said from beside him. "I thought she'd argue more. She's a soldier. She's seen what war costs. I think part of her is relieved to have an out that doesn't involve losing more people to Valari weapons." The door behind them opened, and Vexar entered the room. Her scales were a soft green today. The color that Danny had learned meant calm contentment. "Your Admiral has agreed to negotiate? She's going to try. The politicians will be harder to convince. They always are. Vexar moved to stand by the window, looking out at the stars. In my experience, those who make decisions from safe rooms, far from the fighting, are always the last to understand what is truly at stake. Then we'll have to show them, Danny said. Same way I showed the Admiral. Make them see what's coming. Make them understand that this isn't about winning or losing a war. It's about survival. Vexora turned to face him, her 4 eyes reflecting the starlight. You speak as a leader, Danny Cole. The precursors chose well. I'm not a leader. I'm just a guy who got lucky with some alien technology. Perhaps. Or perhaps luck is simply another word for the universe recognizing potential. She paused. The other species are arriving. Representatives from 12 worlds will be here within the day. They want to meet the bearer. They want to see if the hope they felt in the artifact's signal is real. Danny felt the weight of that expectation settle onto his shoulders. 12 worlds, 12 species, all of them looking to him for something he still was not sure he could provide. But then he looked at Lisa, steady and strong beside him. He thought about Kevin and Amy, recovering on the ship's medical deck. He thought about Admiral Brooks and the soldiers who would be joining them soon. He was not alone. He had never been alone. All right, Danny said. Let's go meet the neighbors. Queen Vexara began her story as the sun set over the ruined battlefield. She spoke slowly, choosing her words with care, and Danny listened with senses that were sharper than they had ever been. He could feel the truth in her words, taste the fear and hope and desperation that colored every sentence. Long before your ancestors climbed down from the trees, Vexara said, the galaxy was united. A civilization called the Precursors had brought together thousands of species under one banner. They were wise beyond measure. They built wonders that we cannot even understand today. They created peace where there had been only war. She paused, her scale shifting to a deep blue that Danny knew meant sorrow. But they made a mistake. In their quest to understand the universe, they reached too far. They touched something that should have been left alone. They woke something up. The hollow, Danny said. The word came from somewhere deep inside him, from the knowledge the light had burned into his mind. Just saying it made him feel cold. Vexara's eyes widened slightly. You know the name. The artifact has shared much with you already. Bits and pieces. I know they're bad. I know they scared the precursors. That's about it. The hollow are not a species, Vexara explained. They are not alive in any way we understand. They are absence, emptiness given form. When they touch something, that thing stops existing. Not dies, not transforms. Simply stops being, as if it had never been at all. Kevin made a small sound of disbelief behind Danny. That's impossible. Nothing can just make something stop existing. Your science cannot explain them, Vexara agreed. Neither can ours. Neither could the precursors, and they were far beyond both our peoples. All they knew was that the hollow were spreading, consuming everything in their path. Stars, planets, the very fabric of space itself. They would not stop until there was nothing left. Danny felt the truth of her words settling into him like stones dropping into deep water. The visions he had seen during his transformation made more sense now. The darkness at the edge of perception. The silence that swallowed light. The hollow. The precursors could not stop them, Vexara continued. They tried everything. Weapons that could crack planets. Barriers made of folded space. Nothing worked. The hollow simply absorbed it all and kept coming. So what did they do? Lisa asked. She had been quiet until now, but Danny could feel her sharp mind working, analyzing the story for weaknesses and lies. She found none, because there were none to find. They ran. They scattered across the galaxy, trying to stay ahead of the hollow's advance. But they knew it was only a matter of time before they were caught. So they made a plan. A desperate final plan. Vexara gestured at Danny, at the armor that covered his body. They created artifacts like the one that is bonded with your sergeant. Powerful tools that could link together to form a network spanning the entire galaxy. A weapon of last resort. But the artifacts needed a key. A specific genetic pattern that would unlock their full potential. And that pattern belongs to humans, Danny said quietly. Yes, the precursors saw something in your species. Potential, they called it. The ability to adapt and grow faster than any other race they had encountered. They planted the seeds of humanity on Earth and encoded the key into your DNA. Then they vanished, consumed by the Hollow, or fled to some distant place beyond our reach. How long ago was this? Amy asked weakly from her position on the ground. 60 million of your years, by our calculations. The precursors have been gone that long. But the Hollow have not been idle. They have been spreading, slowly but surely, devouring everything in their path. For the past 10,000 years, my people have been watching their advance. Running when we had to. Fighting when we could. Searching for the key that the precursors promised would give us a chance. Danny understood now. The invasion of human space had not been about conquest or resources or any of the reasons the politicians had claimed. It had been about survival. You were looking for me, he said. Or someone like me. Someone who could activate the artifacts. Yes, we believed that if we could test your population systematically, we could find the bearer faster. We did not expect. Vexara's scales flickered with that gray color again. We did not expect you to fight so hard. Every world we took cost us more than we could afford. Your species does not surrender, Danny Cole. It was one of the traits the precursors valued, and one we underestimated badly. You killed millions of innocent people because you were afraid, Kevin said, his voice bitter. Children, families, people who had never held a weapon in their lives. Yes, Vexara did not try to defend herself. We did terrible things in our desperation. I ordered those actions. I carry that weight. Nothing I say can undo the harm we have caused. Danny felt the emotions warring inside him. Anger at what had been done. Understanding of why it had been done. Neither feeling canceled out the other. Both were true at the same time. How long do we have? He asked. Before the Hollow reach this part of the galaxy? At their current rate of advance, perhaps 18 of your months. Maybe less. They have been moving faster lately, as if they sense that something has changed. 18 months. It was not a lot of time. It was barely enough to process what had already happened, let alone prepare for a threat that had destroyed a civilization far greater than anything humans or Valari had ever built. What does the network do? Lisa asked. The one the precursors created. How does it fight something that can't be fought? We do not know exactly, Vexara admitted. The precursors left records, but they are incomplete. We know that the network can create barriers the Hollow cannot cross. We know it can push them back, reclaim space they have consumed. But activating it requires the bearer to link with artifacts scattered across thousands of worlds. Thousands? Danny felt the weight of that number pressing down on him. How am I supposed to do that in 18 months? You are not alone anymore, Danny Cole. The artifact has been sending signals since it bonded with you. Other species have received them. Some are already on their way here. The old alliance is stirring, coming together again after millions of years of separation. Danny looked at his squad. Lisa, steady and calm even in the face of impossible revelations. Kevin, scared but still standing his ground. Amy, wounded but alert, refusing to give in to her injuries. They were just 4 people. 4 ordinary humans, caught up in something much bigger than any of them. But maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed right now. Not gods or heroes or ancient powers. Just people. Ordinary people who refused to quit. All right, Danny said finally. We have a lot of work to do. You better start telling me everything you know about this network and how to activate it. Vexara's scales shifted to gold, and Danny knew that color meant hope. With pleasure, bearer. With pleasure. The great hall of the Velari flagship had been transformed. What had once been a war room filled with tactical displays and weapon systems was now a gathering place for representatives of 53 species. They stood in clusters around the vast chamber, beings of every shape and size imaginable. Some had scales, like the Velari. Others had feathers of fur or skin made of living crystal. A few had no solid form at all, existing as clouds of glowing particles that somehow managed to communicate. Danny stood at the center of it all, feeling like a very small human in a very large universe. 3 weeks had passed since his transformation. 3 weeks of meetings and negotiations and careful diplomacy. 3 weeks of learning to use powers he still did not fully understand. The United Earth Council had finally agreed to a ceasefire with the Velari, though the peace was fragile and filled with old wounds that would take years to heal. But they were here. Humans and Velari and dozens of other species, all gathered in one place for the first time in 60 million years. The Alliance was being reborn. You look nervous, Lisa said quietly from her position at his right shoulder. She had refused any formal title, insisting that she was still just a corporal doing her job. But everyone knew she was more than that now. She was Danny's right hand, the voice of human practicality in a sea of alien complexity. I'm terrified, Danny admitted. All these people are looking at me like I have answers. Half the time, I don't even know what the questions are. Then make it up as you go. That's what we've been doing since the beginning. Kevin was on his other side, wearing the lighter armor that Danny's artifact had created for his closest companions. The young private had grown up a lot in the past 3 weeks. The fear was still there, but it was buried now beneath determination and purpose. Amy stood just behind them, her leg fully healed thanks to Velari medical technology, her eyes sharp and watchful. His squad. His family. The people who kept him grounded when everything else felt like it was spinning out of control. A tone sounded through the hall, and the gathered representatives fell silent. Vexara stepped forward from the Velari delegation, her scales shifting through colors that Danny knew represented deep emotion. Today was important. Today would determine whether the new alliance could hold together or fall apart before it truly began. Gathered friends, Vexara said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. We stand at a turning point in the history of our galaxy. For 60 million years, we have been scattered, alone, afraid. The precursors who once united us are gone, and the enemy that destroyed them grows stronger with every passing day. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the crowd. But today, we have hope. Today, we have the bearer. Danny felt every eye in the room turn to him. Human eyes. Alien eyes. Eyes that were not really eyes at all, but something stranger. All of them watching, waiting. I know what you expect, Danny said, stepping forward. His voice did not shake, though he felt like it should. You expect a savior. A warrior chosen by the precursors to lead you to victory. Someone with all the answers. He shook his head slowly. I'm not that person. 3 weeks ago, I was a sergeant in a losing war, ready to die in a foxhole on a planet most of you have never heard of. I didn't ask for this power. I didn't want it. And I'm still not sure I deserve it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Danny ignored them and kept talking. But here's what I do know. I know what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. I know what it means to stand beside people you trust when everything is falling apart. And I know that we're stronger together than we are alone. He gestured at the gathered representatives. Look around this room. 53 species. 53 worlds. Some of you have been enemies for thousands of years. Some of you have never even met before today. But all of you are here because you felt something. When the artifact reached out, hope, a promise that things could be different. That promise wasn't from me. It was from the precursors, from the beings who built the network that might save us all. They believed that the universe was worth fighting for. They believed that life, in all its strange and wonderful forms, deserved to survive. Danny looked at Vexara. I've learned something in the past few weeks. The Volari invaded human space because they were afraid. They did terrible things because they were desperate. I won't pretend that's okay. I won't pretend the wounds can be healed with pretty words. But I've also seen something else in them. Something worth believing in. He turned to face the Volari Queen directly. You came looking for a weapon. A tool to use against the Hollow. What you found was a partner. Humanity doesn't want to be your savior, Vexara. We want to be your ally. We want to stand beside you, not in front of you. Vexara's scales shifted through colors Danny had never seen before. She stepped forward slowly, her movements graceful and deliberate. Her royal guards tensed but did not move. Among my people, she said quietly, there is an ancient tradition. When one recognizes a greater truth, a wisdom beyond their own, they acknowledge it not through words, but through action. She lowered herself to her knees. Her forearms folded across her chest in the Volari gesture of absolute respect. Her head bowed until her crest nearly touched the floor. The hall went completely silent. Danny could feel the shock rolling off the other species like waves against the shore. The Volari Queen, ruler of an empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds, was kneeling before a human. I, Vexara, of the Volari Dominion, kneel before Danny Cole, she said, her voice clear and strong despite her position. Not as a subject before a master, but as a student before a teacher. You have shown me what true strength looks like. Not power, not conquest, but the courage to extend a hand to those who have wronged you. She looked up at him, her four eyes glistening with moisture that Danny knew were tears. I beg forgiveness for the sins of my people, and I offer everything we have in the war to come. Our ships, our soldiers, our lives, whatever is needed. Danny reached down and touched her shoulder gently. Stand up, he said. We don't need you on your knees. We need you on your feet, fighting beside us. Vexara rose slowly. Something had changed in her bearing. The weight of guilt was still there, but it was lighter now. Shared. The precursors chose well, she whispered. Your people will lead us not through dominance, but through something we had forgotten. Compassion. One by one, other representatives stepped forward. The crystalline beings of the Shattered Chorus. The feathered warriors of the Talon Compact. The living storms of the Void Dancers. Each offered their allegiance in their own way. Some knelt like Vexara. Others bowed or touched their appendages to their hearts or performed gestures that Danny did not recognize but somehow understood by the time it was over. All 53 species had pledged themselves to the new alliance. Not because Danny had demanded it. Not because of the power he carried. But because he had offered them something they had not expected. Respect. Lisa appeared at his side. Again, as the hall buzzed with conversation and the beginnings of planning. That was quite a speech, she said. Did you practice it? Made it up as I went, Danny admitted. Like you said. Well, it worked. She glanced around at the gathered aliens. So, what happens now? Danny thought about the Hollow, still advancing at the edge of the galaxy. He thought about the network that needed to be activated, the artifacts scattered across 1,000 worlds. He thought about the months of hard work ahead, the battles that would have to be fought, the sacrifices that would have to be made. "Now we get to work," he said. "We've got a galaxy to save." Kevin grinned from behind him. No pressure or anything. Amy rolled her eyes, but she was smiling too. "If anyone can do it, Sarge, it's you." Danny looked at his squad, at his friends, at the unlikely family that had formed in the fire of war and transformation. Then he looked at Vexara, at the representatives of 53 species. At the future they were all building together. He was still just Danny Cole, still just a human soldier who had been in the wrong place at the right time. But maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Not a god, not a legend, just a person who refused to give up. And that, he realized, was the most human thing of all.